Hello, welcome to Buying on a Budget. My name is Fei. Today I'm not gonna talk about specific product, but I'm gonna share my experience shooting a documentary project for my school. Since I have a lot of work recently, my exams are coming, so I don't have time to go out, so I just stay at home and then do a little sharing with you guys and what gears work, what equipment worked, and what did I learn from the experience. First of all, it is a school project, and I took a course which is a documentary course, and we had a final project that requires us to do a proper documentary. And first of all, I wanted to be the director. However, you can not always hope to do what you want, which is a big lesson I learned. And the teachers told to us, and because of there were always some constraint, and even if you go out and work, you won't always do what you want, so you sometimes have to adapt. And I became the interviewer because I can speak fluent Cantonese with the interviewee, which is a pretty interesting case. But let's dial back a little bit. What the director wanted at first is a nighttime experience. He wanted something to shoot at night time in Macau, because he thinks Macau is a fascinating place. If you don't know, it's a only place that is legal for gambling. There were a lot of casinos. However, there were still some people that is poor, and some people live outside. They're homeless. So we wanted to do something like that at first, and I actually did a pretty decent job in my opinion. I just go straight up to talk to a woman which is 40 or 50 something old, and she collects rubbish for a living before. But right now her son can support her, and she thinks that she would still keep on doing collecting rubbish, not for money though. In the past she did it for money, only for money, because she didn't know much, not very well educated. Her only job is collecting rubbish and recycle them for money. But right now she actually does it for fun. She actually said so. She said, I wanted to do this for fun. She volunteers, she collects rubbish for her friend, and she thinks, she believes that it's a freedom, this job actually collecting rubbish, because she can go everywhere, which is mind-blowing for me. One thing about documentary is that you rethink your life. Actually, sometimes you would think a lot deeper, and you would ask questions or see things that you would never have the opportunity to see, which I find very fascinating. And she helps her friend to collect rubbish, and for her, I don't know if it's him or her, because she just said another friend and not a gender specific. But because it was in a rush, I actually just came up. We wanted to go around with the team, and then the director said, oh, there is a woman, go ahead and talk to her. And I did, and we certainly go out and then talk to her, and then things just happen, and we set up the gears. And at that night we used the Canon C100 with a Sony, I'm not sure what's the model, but Sony wireless mic, wireless lav mic, and clip-on mic for the homeless, not homeless anymore. She has a home, but she sat on a place waiting for her friend. And we set up a tripod. We used a lot of Canon gears, mainly because I think we could borrow them from the university, because I think Canon is still one of the more reliable one, if you ask me. And however, I think in documentary situation, you don't really want to bring such heavy things outside. And one thing, after the end, we finished the interview with the interviewee, the collecting rubbish woman. I don't know how to call her. I don't even know her name. She's a fascinating woman though. And we wanted to leave, and the police actually came and said you could not set up tripod in public area, which is actually very frustrating experience for us, and me personally felt that as well, because the rule in Macau, the rules are not very open, and sometimes you can't really shoot street photography. You can't really set up tripod. They have to ask you for permission, if you have permission or not, from government, and it is usually more complicated than we want. And so after that we decided not to use the Canon C100 because it was just too big. We would not be able to be more discreet and stealthy, and sometimes you want to document something, you can't really bring something too big, otherwise it is a pain for us as well, because if it is too heavy. And the director has a Canon 5D Mark IV. He's very proud of that. I think it's a good gear, is a good camera, because he wanted to shoot at night time, and full frame is good at that. And for documentary work, the dual pixel does work quite well, and I have to say that. After that case, we decided to change, because homeless people are hard to document and hard to find, and they don't have a fixed spot. So we change. Actually, you sometimes you just change your thought on the spot, and later we actually find a fascinating case. We had I just give you some context. Macau is a very affluent place, I would say, but not very, not very equal. But in general, we are not poor, and it's a very small place, and it's very noisy. It's a small city, but we had a case. There is a girl being human trafficked to Japan, and she was rescued successfully and came back to Macau after 10 years. So 10 years ago, she was being human trafficked to Japan. We found her for the documentary. I think one thing we learned is that you really have to approach and try your luck. This is not our only plan. Actually, we had several plans, but this one replied to us, and it's a fascinating case, and so it worked out. So don't be afraid to approach people. At first, we want to shoot some nighttime McDonald's, because the director thinks that the McDonald's has a lot of different people. Even rich people eat McDonald's, poor people eat McDonald's, people who go to the job which has shift time, they don't have a fixed time, they go to McDonald's. So they would have a lot of story and a lot of differences to showcase how is Macau. But McDonald's doesn't allow us to shoot inside, and this is so it was not the best plan. We decided to change another plan, which is the woman being human trafficked, and we approach some organization. They applied, and we go to talk to them. And honestly, I have a pretty good communication skill in my opinion, and it was also pretty amazing to us is that girl, I think after 10 years, and she changed. She's not as depressed, because she was depressed after this case, but she's still not very, being human trafficked for, sexual purpose. Actually, I didn't mention that. And she was in Japan, and being being for sex trade. I'm not sure what's the word. I'm not sure what specific sex action she did. She didn't tell us, but I know there was some, and she told some fascinating story. There are good people or bad people. Even the people who go to use the service, the man who uses the service, have their story, and actually one Hong Kong guy in Japan, because I'm not sure, migration or workers or something like that, and they became a pretty good relationship. The Hong Kong man told her, be careful, and because the girl, her name is Julie, and not the real name, I guess, and she said she didn't know much because she was only 16, and which is really fascinating story, because and in Macau I think there were just very few cases of this. And I think one thing about good documentary is you have to have a good story, you have to have a interesting subject. I mean, you have other ways you can do something interesting that documenting some boring stuff in a different angle. I think that works as well. But if your subject is good already, then you don't have to do much work. Let them tell the story. And I think she has stories, and it was fascinating because I was the interviewer and I talked a lot with her, and I really think I'm not sure, because it kind of inspired me that life is not so bad. There were worse there were worse cases, and she believes in Jesus. I'm not sure which one, because we have two Christian, not Christian, but the one that Jesus has mother. I'm not sure what's the name in English. Not gonna be rude, because I don't believe in Jesus, and she believes in that, and I respect that, and that actually changed her life and makes her motivated. And because she was still bad actually, because she was 16 or something like that, very young, and she has a not very great family, and she wanted to leave, and she saw some advertisement on the newspaper, and she called them. The advertisement saying that they want a PR. I don't know why PR, public relation, is perceived as like this. I'm not sure why, because I learned a little bit PR as well. I know it's a whole different thing, but she believed in that, and then they talked, and then she finally, because she just really wanted to leave the family. Family is, as a young age, and she finds the family not being very nice to her, and she wanted to leave. I can respect that, and she did leave, and then went to Japan. She didn't know much, and then it was a scam, not like the one that got forced, so to speak. But after she went to Japan, it was a whole different story. I'm not gonna say so much in detail, but I think it's a fascinating story, after 10 years. And let's talk about gears, a little bit gears. I mainly use the Rolling Filmmaker kit, the wireless lav, which I used it on multiple videos on this channel, in fact, and it worked well actually in my Panasonic G9. It worked excellently. But one thing I really want to complain is that Canon DSLR has a rubbish PM. There was so much noise. I don't know why, and I'm not sure. It's just the PM being not so nice. My G9 works well. The even connect to the Zoom H5, they work well. By the way, I'm using the AKG-D5 with the Zoom H5 handy recorder. This is the sound for your information. But we use the lav mic throughout the whole film. Actually, at first we wanted to use the Rode VideoMic Pro or VideoMic Pro, which I have. We sometimes can borrow something from the university. The reason I buy the Zoom H5 was because I tried out the Zoom H6 from university, and I thought, it was a handy tool to use, and I just bought a Zoom H5 because I don't have to use so much XLR input. If you are interested, tell me. I might do a review on them, but I'm not sure if this is a kind of old product, but they are working well though. And we used some Canon stuff, some Canon 80D, Canon 5D Mark III, some 70 to 200 millimeter lens, some 24 to 70 red ring and a 16 to 35 millimeter red ring Canon lens. I didn't shoot much because I had to talk to the girl. I mean, these gears work well because they have a pretty amazing focusing system. It was great. But one shot in particular, I had to use my camera because Micro Four Thirds are good at their macro shot, their close up. We had one shot that we wanted to shoot the eyes directly because all those red ring or Canon full frame lens didn't do it, and this one does it, and I think it's good. But however, I think my camera is not very good for documentary. Especially for beginner, because it has to be manual focus, otherwise you lose focus all the time in nighttime. And because of the situation we wanted to shoot a lot of things in nighttime. This one would not do so great, the G9, the Micro Four Thirds format, because the ISO performance are not so great. And different cameras have different situation to shine, and I definitely find this to be very true in this case. And what other gears we used? Let me think about that. Not so many others. The main things we used are this kind of things, and we did a little bit lighting in the end in the studio. Yeah, that's it about gears. And I think different gears have different usage for them, different application. And in the end, the girl actually cried, and I found that to be very emotional for me as well, because I was the one who was talking to her, and I kind of feel like I made her cry. But it was a good shot. Sometimes you have to balance that. We didn't even give tissue. The team didn't give her. I don't have one, and they just I think it was a good emotional moment for all of us to think. She talked about her grandpa because her father doesn't like her after knowing this fact, even after rescuing her from Japan to Macau, and he didn't even show up. And I find it really fascinating because I kind of can respect that and understand that and appreciate that, but it was not the best move, right? He didn't come, and the girl was so sad. But her grandpa was good, and he talked about her grandpa who has already passed away. She became very emotional because I asked her, what if your grandpa knew this case? Because he didn't know, and it was a very emotional moment for all. And I think that's it pretty much for the whole talk. And I just wanted to add that it was very time consuming. You need to spend your time wisely, and I sincerely think that we could do a better job because we didn't have much time. It was a school project, we have deadlines. Otherwise we would do a lot more than that. I think in the end it was more like an interview than a documentary. We get a lot of advices from everyone. I think that's the main lessons. I don't know what I'm trying to tell in this lesson. Maybe just gear doesn't matter, and use your time and find a interesting subject and angles, and your documentary will be great. And I think that's it really pretty much. I don't have much to say. I just want to do a filler video from this week because I try to post one video every week, and I don't have much time to talk this time, but I really want to share my documentary story because talking about gear doesn't matter because Canon or Sony, we even had a Sony A7 III which was useful, and the focusing was good, and stuff and that, but the handling was really bad though. I tried that, and the full frame camera are really heavy. Luckily I didn't have to bring them. I only have to use my G9 once, and it was very handy because it was light. Yeah, that's it pretty much. If you guys like this video, please subscribe, comment, and tell me. I have an animation project as well. If you want to listen my experience about that, go ahead and tell me, and ask me any question if you want, because I am just talking from my mind. I don't have a script or something like that. I just want to share my experience. Thank you. Bye.